Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day I bid to all my brothers and sisters. I'm Sister Lily, and thank you so much for tuning into Simply Islam podcast. So, for today, I have a very important topic that I would like to talk to you about, and that is overeating in the month of Ramadan. It is such a personal and relevant and a very I would say common topic, a common issue that is always talked about. But sometimes, we're all guilty of this. We can't help ourselves, especially in the early days of Ramadan, when our bodies, our metabolism is not used to restraining ourselves or abstaining ourselves from food and water for a very long period of time. So we're all guilty of overeating, especially if you're living in a country that has cultural diversity, that embraces cultural diversity. A lot of food is being celebrated, cultures that naturally celebrates food, that we have a lot of those here, especially with Ramadan bazaars, a plethora of food that you see. It's really hard not to buy. But in reality, did you know that we get full a lot quicker when we're fasting? And why is that? Because when we're fasting the month of Ramadan, our appetite is slowly decreased because our body's metabolism is slowly decreasing. So when you think that you're hungry, you have all of this urge, this desire to buy this food and that food, you want to buy this, you want to buy that, it's actually all your urges talking, all your desires talking, because it makes sense. You haven't eaten for a long time, you're hungry. You would think that way, right? But in reality, after you eat, after you break your fast, maybe you eat some things and then suddenly you're halfway full. That's really amazing, and one of the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. It's something that is very, very magical. You would think that we're hungry after a long day of fasting, but in reality we're not. So all of the things that we're buying, all the things that we thought that we want to buy and we thought that we could finish all on our own, is actually just our desires talking. So the sad thing is that after we buy all of these foods that we think that we were going to finish, we end up not finishing it, and then what? We throw them away. It's very rare cases that we keep them as leftovers and things like that, but then most of the time we throw them away because they go bad the next day, and you don't want to eat the same thing the next day. So that's also one of the things that we have to really, really watch out for. We don't want to first buy too much and waste a lot of money, and then number two, end up not eating half of the things that we bought. So this is something that we need to kind of slowly remind ourselves that we need to be frugal, number one. Number two, we need to understand the limits of our body, the limitations of our body, especially in Ramadan when we're fasting. So on that note, I want to talk about moderation and what it means, and also a hadith regards to moderation and overeating in Ramadan. Okay, so moderation, the meaning of it is the quality of being moderate and avoiding extremes, or to be within limits that are not excessive. And there's a hadith that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "Do good deeds properly, sincerely, and moderately. Always adopt a middle, moderate, regular course whereby you will reach your target of paradise." This is from Sahih Bukhari. So the main point over here is that we have to remind ourselves to be moderate in everything that we do, and that includes eating. Some of us, of course, we binge eat, or we eat a lot, overeat, because we're just so hungry, right? But that's not really our hunger talking. We have been full like maybe 30 spoonful of foods before, but then after that we're just stuffing things in our body, overeating, and then end up burping and end up like, oh my god, there's so much food in me, and you're starting to feel lazy, starting to feel sleepy, all these things that we need to avoid, especially in the blessed month of Ramadan. So actually I want to share you some really useful tips for you to avoid overeating and adopt a more moderate, healthy lifestyle. It's okay to splurge yourself a little, eat a little, on some days, especially if there's occasion, but to do it every single day of Ramadan is actually not that good. So here's some useful tips that I would like to share with you to kind of balance it out. Try to take a step back and adopt moderation. So the first one is what you want to do is hydrate right after iftar and during suhoor. So the most important thing that causes our hunger is actually the lack of fluids, the lack of H2O, the lack of water itself that's making us hungry. So actually when you hydrate yourself, drink 2-3 glasses of water, trying to get that fluid back in, hydrating yourself, you will actually feel you're less hungry when you're hydrated. So that's like the first one. And number 2 is you want to actually start small. And there's a reason for this. There's not hadith, but a sunnah. There's a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ when he breaks his fast, he eats dates. So this is like an opening for him, like an opener for an appetizer, if you want to call it, for us to slowly insert foods into our bodies, consume foods slowly, gradually. You don't just open after. You just don't break the fast after a long day of not eating anything, and then suddenly you shock your body with like large amounts of food. It's also going to cause some sort of issues. Like for some people, when they do that, they would get some gas, or they would feel like a flatulence coming. So it's actually very important for you to really take it slow, gradually open with like appetizer, eat dates, and after that, some people would perform salah first. They would perform the Maghrib prayers, and then after that they would eat as they would like a normal dinner. So try and start small. Open with an appetizer, like a drink, dates, go for Maghrib prayers, and then get back and eat a proper meal. So the third one is do not spend too much time around the table. And make it just a place for you to eat. And then once you're done, that's it. Wash your hands, wash your plates, whatever. And then you just get out of the kitchen, get out of the dining room, whatever that makes you stay there longer to eat food. Just get out of there. Because this is also a very useful tip for me, because usually I realize that when I hang out too long in the kitchen, when I hang out too long in the dining room, talking to my friends and families, we would like slowly grab a little bit of this, grab a little bit of that banana, grab a little bit of this mashed potatoes, slowly as we were talking. So you end up like eating a lot. So make it a place just for eating, and after you're done, that's it. Wash your plates, whatever, and then you want to continue talking to your friends and families. You can do that in the living room, or you can do that on your way to perform Tarawih prayers and things like that. So make it really clear that it's just a place for you to eat, not to socialize too much, or else you're just gonna end up overeating. So that's the third one. And fourth one is to remind yourself that you do not need to buy every single thing. It's just your desires talking. So this is something that obviously requires some sort of like mindful thinking, being mindful, or mindfulness basically. And it's something that's not really easy to do. You really need to like take a step back and actually center yourself. Although in your heart you're like really, really hungry, you could eat the whole thing, but sometimes you just gotta step back and like remind yourself that you don't eat this much. So your limitations, and once you meditate for a while, being in a state of mindfulness, you would actually manifest that and buy a lot lesser. So obviously in the first few days it's going to be extremely hard, because there's a lot of delicious food out there. But then you will realize that after a while, especially like in the second week, third week, and fourth week of Ramadan, you're already getting used to how your body. You're already getting used to how your body receives food or consumes the food. So the usual amount that you take. So you don't have to eat as much. So but in the first few days it's gonna be hard, but then after a while it's just like it's like practice basically. You get used to understanding how much your body could take food in, and then you just go with the flow. So that's the fourth thing. And the fifth and final one is to keep a food journal and jot down what you eat. So this is especially important if you keep reminding yourself every single day, I don't need to eat this much, I don't need to eat this much, and then you end up buying a lot anyway. So keeping a journal is actually very helpful to kind of track what you've eaten in the past, and you can like kind of gauge how much you actually eat, how much you actually ate. So every night when you put in your food entries, right, you write down your journal, what you've eaten, like an appetizer, what's for the main course and the dessert and things like that. You actually have like a better picture, a clearer picture on how much your body could, consume. So after a while, you get used to it and you're like, okay, so I know this is my limitations. I don't need to buy this. I just need to have this. I just need to consume this much of food. So actually, the journal is a much more, I would say, technical way of like reminding yourself that you do not need a lot to, you don't really need a lot of food after iftar. So these are all the tips that I have for you. It's actually very easy to say, but I'm pretty sure a lot of us, especially in our first days of Ramadan, it's going to be a little bit difficult because it has been a while since we've like fasted a full month, and that is why it is also sunnah for us to fast during the Mondays and the Thursdays, as one of the sunnahs of the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned and recommended. So for those who fast in the regular would understand their body, but then for those of us who don't fast, who never fast like for the entire year, and then suddenly bam, Ramadan, we might have a little bit of a difficulty trying to gauge how much our body could consume and accept food. So this is all that I would like to share with you, and I hope that all of you have a blessed Ramadan. Inshallah, I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of our deeds, accept all of our prayers, du'as, and all the good stuff, and also improve ourselves, become the better versions of ourselves in the future, inshallah. And practice moderation in everything that you do, especially in terms of food consumption. And I pray that all of you may have a blessed Ramadan this year, inshallah. Thank you so much for tuning in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.